Greetings and salutations and welcome to another episode of Waved Yellow. If it's Waved Yellow, it must be Wednesday.
You're
Bru?
looking very smart today, young Colin.
Thank you, Gary. Old Gary.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm impressed, eh? Well, the wardrobe department came to the party,
Yes.
and we'll talk about these striking colours. Location sorted out our location. So just for those clever ones amongst you, yes, you recognised it. We're back at Mug and Bean in Broad Acres on a sweltering Joburg afternoon. Gary, it's proper hot. But the beauty of this place, and I've just got to have a little bit of a shout out. There's gardens, there's green things, there's chickens that run around in the back of the Mug and Bean Broad Acres.
Correct.
Is a kids play area, and it's pretty cool, and they like us and we like them, so that's for them. It's episode number 43.
We're getting age. This is all
So we're going to call it Petty.
Petty.
And if anybody can work out why we have, welcome to all of you, why we have called this show Petty, it's our 43rd episode, write it in the comments and we've got a prize for you. We've got a hamper. And our hamper comes from, I hope that our legal department has told them, from Autobahn. So Autobahn, for those of you who know, and thank you very much for the shirts, and this is kind of cool. We might have a big announcement next week. They're the best value for money, no frills, auto parts outlet in South Africa.
They are. And as you're getting on with that, a couple of people have dialed in, and why I'm going to mention them this early.
Yes.
Simply because David White and Stewie White are sitting over in
America. Welcome. I hope you guys travelled safe, and Stewie, I hope you're over your jet lag. Remember, it's time now to focus. Get catering and logistics to sort out your diet and your mind and your focus. Do you know that he's been working with Cheryl Calder of a company called iGym? She comes out of, or an organization called iGym, comes out of the University of Cape Town, and she specializes in, our brain can only process what it gathers through the senses. So when you in the racing car environment, you're sitting in the car, so it's the contact points, basically your bum, and your ears, and Cheryl works with the eyes. Gary, we must talk to production and see if she's in Joburg next. We can sit and talk to her. Because she talks to the arse. The arse. So essentially what she does is trains you, like all the butts, because we're in Fourways, all the butts go to Fart Club and to gym here. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest place for gyms in Joburg. And they exercise the arms and the chest, because every day is chest day. But I'll tell you what, Cheryl works on exercising the eyes and getting the eyes to recognize images, to the point where some of the drivers that I was talking to, one of the drivers that she works with, and his work, they did a lot of work, always wondering why his starts were so good. And they did a lot of work with him standing with his nose virtually up against a wall, and then these lights go off in the peripheral vision. And the concept is, or the idea is, to train the subconscious to recognize these lights going on in the peripheral vision. So what he would do on the start is go through all the start procedures and all the rest of it, and focus on the road. And the peripheral vision is kind of sharp. Have you ever had something like, I don't know, when you're working with a grinder, when you haven't got your safety goggles on, for instance, something like that, and a thing comes for you, and you just like, you duck or you blink or whatever, and it misses your eye mostly. Yeah. So the focus is not on the lights, it's on the track. The lights go out, and because he's done this training, he gets better starts. She's worked with the Williams Formula One team. She's worked with Springbok or rugby players. That's with correct. Ernie Else. When Ernie was going through a massive slump, he went to her. I think she actually offered her services, and then all of a sudden Ernie did a whole lot better. So she's world-renowned, works all over the world. That is Dr. Cheryl Calder from the iGym, and young Stuart has been working with him. So Stuart, I hope you're doing your eye exercises and the batic and all that other stuff and getting it going. by now you will have noticed, and I'm sure that it was Cheryl's idea or prompted Stewie to give me my magnifying glass so I can see what I'm doing. But anyway, so while we're talking about world-class performances, a huge shout-out to Cristiano Morgado, who is the new South African world champion in the Rotax DD2 Masters category. So that's for the old toppies who still like to drive go-karts.
If I'm not mistaken,
fifth time,
this
brother.
is the fifth time he's done it.
It's like, how many? 5 times, like Lewis Hamilton. So basically, Cristiano is the Lewis Hamilton of DD2s. Masters. Well done, but it is absolutely fantastic. There's another person we need to talk to. Can you actually get onto production that we organise a guest? The other ones we want to talk about are the kids who come from Drainfern.
We actually need, there's 5 I want to speak to.
And has production been helping you?
Yes, I'm sort of, we're on it.
Because, Gary, I'll have a talk with production.
Just quickly, Stewie just sent you a message. It says jet lag all good. Now not a problem anymore. We all good, have track walk today and again Friday before the driving starts on Saturday. So that is the road to Indy. This is the scholarship.
This is the shootout they're going for because, interestingly, last year's guys who did one or got onto this whole road to Indy thing, they're actually busy testing the Indy Lights cars and their version of the F2000 cars and the Formula Mazda cars. That testing is on the go at the moment. And Adrian van der Watt. Adrian's Lighty, Julian. See, how is it that we always remember the dads and not the kids?
Julian,
because we're old.
Come and say something to us.
Because we're old. Right, so where did we go this weekend, Gary? And did we have fun?
Oi, did we have fun? We went off to go and watch guys going roundabouts. And for those of you that were lucky enough to get to WRX, it was good. But until you watch the guys doing Gymkhana Grid, that's another story altogether. Similar cars, in fact, some of them were the same cars, the exact cars. The Peter Solberg and Christofferson and
Johan Christoffer. He's not related to Chris, even though I asked him.
And then Ollie Bennett in the Mini.
Yeah,
those were the proper WRX cars that actually participated in Cape Town. And we got busted, didn't we? Big time.
Gary, so this is Gymkhana on steroids. And there's a track, and you go back to back for those of you who haven't been there, and for those of you who think that it's like I did. I thought it was kak. I thought it was not so lekker until I actually went there. So it opened my mind. And then, so you see these guys do all sorts of things, and they do like a donut around a pole. And Diego Psycho Sato they call him, in a space frame Chev Corvette with a Kevlar body and must be 600 horsepower with proper wide tires, and the instant throttle response.
That's right.
Was absolute, and I've just forgotten a name that you're going to help me with, South African John, I think. The instant throttle response is absolutely fantastic. So then we decide, well, of course, what does waved yellow do? We try and look under bonnets and in places we're not supposed to look. So we go into the pits, and the first car, like, I get all excited because this Gymkhana Grid is essentially Kenny Block's kind of thing. And I had an idea of Ken Block, and then reality struck, and that was called cognitive dissonance. So the definition of cognitive dissonance is what you've actually got in your mind and what reality is. So that was a rude awakening. His minder, his helper, his media person, his bitch was we
you
were.
Want to call him that? That's cool.
It's his bitch. So we were told to talk to Murican, and so we did. And Ken's busy. I've sent him here. Come back in 30 minutes. 29 minutes later, we go back there, set our alarm clock, because the man said, and if the man says, we get there. And then it's, oh, well, you back. Well, duh, that's what we do. So then, can you tell us what you're all about, because I may not be down with it. Now, I don't understand all this woke language, and I haven't got any tattoos. And I haven't got super shaved side hair
or
and
earrings or anything like that.
oh, there were creatures there. But anyway, I digress. Long story short, Ken wasn't comfortable. Well, his heart rate wasn't in the, and his chakras weren't, and the quack, 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 didn't get to talk to him. But dude says we can go and check out that Hoonigan car. So we did. He didn't think we were going to go and look what we did. Awesome stuff in it, but it's nothing special. We've seen some cars with similar build quality in our Westbank, the V8 series.
Correct.
And that's actually
but
a compliment to the Westbank V8
One thing
guys.
that did surprise me, for all of the guys in South Africa that understand turbos, if you really wanted to see turbos, you're going to have a look against. Those things were gigantic. They were, to me, they were like jet engines. Serious.
Gary, I just need to say something to you. Just look at me, Gary.
Focus.
You see, I've taught him well. He's like my sidekick that I've trained well. Anyway, 1,400 horsepower on this thing. There's not a piece of carbon fiber in it, which was, yeah, okay. So it's nice and neatly built. The thing is the legend that goes with it. The what do you call it? The vibe, the image that goes around it. So then after Ken battered us and
we trottle on down a little bit further down the pit lane.
And we see some bosparas.
And we see some VW.
So
he goes in. He has a chat with the
chairman.
It was actually his wife, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you know that, Gary? You just check all the checks out.
Yeah, well, you get to know things. So
well done, Gary.
Colin says to me, "We want to do this, we want to do that." She says, "Yes, you can go around like that, but you can't."
Look at the outside of the car.
Yeah, but you can't. You look at the outside of the car.
But Gary, they didn't. The door was open. Literally, it was open this much.
Yeah, but they didn't expect me to get a camera in places that they never wanted the camera to ever be before.
So these cars are the latest specification VW Polo R, the World Rallycross car, which comes out of the World Rally Championship car, fully updated by Volkswagen from Wolfsburg, in Germany, and then handed over to Volkswagen of Sweden. Solberg is a Norwegian, and Solberg runs the team, and they do the WRX in these things. So we had a bit of a look at it, and it was quite an eye-opener to see the quality of the work on the thing. Number one. Number two, the level of electronics in that thing is unbelievable. I counted 5 computers.
That passenger footwell was just computers.
And then
now imagine a passenger footwell without the passenger seat there.
It was just full of boxes.
And it's just boxes of electronics.
But the thing that blew my brain the most, Gary, was they were taught we've been going on about the 3 tenets of modern race car design. Correct. Center of gravity, polar moment of inertia, and reduction of friction. Now we saw all of that on that car.
Are we going to bring a bit of the science and maths thing into at this stage?
Because remember, kids, science and maths is cool.
Yeah.
Because life's about circles and lines and angles, because there's always an angle to something.
Correct.
So in a lot of cars that we go to, this is the embodiment of the ultimate of low center of gravity. And should we explain what we mean by center of gravity?
Your hands free again.
My hands free. This is the best hands free. Just got to check that it's on, because
some people turn them off.
Some people turns it off. The birds are hungry. They're chowing your chips there, Gary. So we were told not to use Gary's chips for any engineering explanation. So we'll use the salt and pepper and a fork and knife. But I'm going to start with a fork. So center of gravity is essentially the single point about which all the mass of an object sits. And remember, we've got an axis that goes this way. We think in 3 dimensions because it's cool. So there's a line this way, there's a line that way, and there's a line this way. And if I was to try and balance this fork, for those of you who can see, and I've just got to get the balance of it right, the center of gravity of the fork is over here. So it's not necessarily in the middle. And do you see where the center of gravity is? Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get one of Gary's chips.
And you're going to change the center of gravity.
And I've just changed the center of gravity of the fork. Now you see what's happened. We've changed the center of gravity in 2 places. So the fork won't rest like this.
Where you had it before, correct.
Why? And we'll get to that now. But it's also sitting around about here, which is more this way, because we've added weight here. So that's the center of gravity in the fore and aft way.
Correct.
Now, we added weight when we put this thing, and it's just a chip. I mean, brew. Carbs are good, remember? It goes with your protein shake, eh? So the reason it falls over is the center of gravity has also got a height element. And it falls over because the center of gravity is so high. So it falls over. So that's that.
Did you enjoy that?
Don't know, I'm still eating it. So now...
While you got your mouth full, just hi to Tuka Mechanicus. I wonder what he wants. He says, hi, handsomes.
No, he's a cool dude because he's got the coolest car ever because it's mirror finish, but...
Oh, you know something? At Gymkhana Grid, I found what he can do with those tassels that hang off his wings at the back.
Was that the lady who was,
no, there was that
looking
other guy.
after the Monster Girls?
No, there was that other guy from Korea that was running and put 2 flags roughly at the end plates of the wing. Okay. Now all we got to do is...
Where did you say he was from?
From Korea.
Gary? He was from Croatia.
No, not that. Not
The
that
Croatian guys get the murin when you call them Koreans.
Not the Croatian guy. The Croatian guy is the guy...
Because he threatened me.
And you're still here, you're lucky.
I'm very lucky. I did exactly what he
But
told
Tuka,
me.
we know what we do. You take those things and you put them on a stick and you turn it upside down and then they flap like in the wind. Carry on.
While you're racing, Tuka, I dare you. In fact, I double dare you. So now the other important, why is low center of gravity so important? And again, it comes down to maths, kids. So if we built something like this, it's very easy to knock it off. And when you push it, it's very easy for it to fall over. The difference between these 2 thingies here is that if you looked at where the mass is centered around it, on this phone in its tully cover, it's very low. Did you see what I did there? Mm-hmm. And on this one, it's high. Now, why that's important, and just imagine, put those props aside, we have a lever arm. For those of you who are still in school and still followed the maths, a moment, or the force on a lever, the torque, is the force you're applying this way over the distance.
Okay.
So if this knife has its center of gravity
there,
somewhere over there, let's just say it's there, and we're going around a corner, the force that's acting on this car is acting through there, which means that it's got a lever arm like this that's trying to push the car over.
Okay.
If the center of gravity was higher, it's the same force and over a much bigger lever, and it's a hell of a lot easier to...
Okay, and the bottom moves further.
Yeah, so for those of you who've got female companions in the house who love moving bookshelves around, try and push the bookshelf at the top and see how easy it is to fall over versus pushing it at the bottom with your foot. So the ideal is to have the center of gravity as low as possible. And the center of gravity of an object, Gary, just like this salt thing here, we're not allowed to spill salt. So just like the weight or the mass of this pepper pot is made up of a whole lot of individual peppercorns, just think of those as the individual pieces that are in a car. You mount all of them as low as possible. So back to the Polo R.
Yeah.
All the computer boxes, which are kind of heavy because there's wires and family show. There's wires and stuff that goes to it. They drop that. They mount it on the floor on nice absorbent mountings, and as close to the center of the car because we want to try and keep the mass all to the inside. That was magnificent. It's got an OMP seat in it, beautiful seat belts, and there was another details like you can't believe on this thing. On the driver's footrest, for those of you who've been off-road racing, driving on Joburg roads in your car, sometimes when the road's very bumpy and you're a bit like your foot goes on the accelerator. Mm-hmm. So there's a beautiful carbon molding because carbon is cool there's a beautiful carbon molding on the tunnel, and being a left-hand drive car, it's of course for the accelerator, with a little bit of the fuzzy part of Velcro tape in it, so it's just got the right amount of friction, so you can rest your foot against it, so your foot doesn't go and you get a smooth ride on it. Going to the suspension, when we thought that Glyn was twitchy when we were looking in his workshop at the top with a camera onto a car that hadn't yet been launched, that was launched in Cape Town the week after that. The chairmans in the team got mega twitchy when we went under the wheel arch and started looking at the spring. It has got so much droop. It is phenomenal.
Well, I mean, if I take from there to here, when they're up on the jacks, okay, I could add another thumb on top of that. Actually, that's the roughly distance from the tire to the top of the wheel arch.
So it was a mind opener to walk through there, and then we finished the brief walk around and thought that we should get out of there, and then Peter Solberg came up to us and said, hey, you got very lucky. Nobody else in the world has got a camera that close to a car. So I thought that was pretty cool. Nicest guy to chat to. And then the story, his son Ollie, who's 17, was running an ex-Sebastian Loeb Citroen Zara, which had endless trouble in it. So it was kind of cool to see the two factory Polo R's, and then the pit next to it, same kind of pit area, and they've got the lime green Zara, and it was really great to see Ollie fight through the mechanical issues that he had with the car and end up racing against his dad in the semi-final, which he just lost. So there was a whole emotional story there, and it was very, very special to be part of that. See, there was a moment where there was a hug, and not many world champions get through to speak to their father, and as an exercise,
and race against him.
I mean, that's what I mean. As an exercise in evaluating personalities, which I'm not a psychologist, those Christofferson and Solberg were the most professional, friendly, consummate race personnel I've ever spoken to. Ever.
I agree with you.
They were phenomenal. So I just got to say to Peter, Johan, Oliver, and to everybody else who spoke to us, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. You made our day. You made my day. And that was really lucky.
You know that after all of that, Peter Solberg went online and actually decided to like Alibi and follow the page. So I know he's not online at the moment, but he now follows what we do. So it makes me feel awesome. So
Gary, pressure, hey? Yep. Pressure. So the other, in terms of stuff that's happened, there was a workshop in Kyalami.
There was?
There is. And in the entrance to this workshop is a whole pile of tubes. Chrome moly tubes. So the story is, and I think that we can break it. If we can't, well, sorry if your feelings are hurt. The best advice I can ever give anybody with hurt feelings is open a little bag of cement, have a slick on it, and harden the hell up. Because, you know what, you allow your feelings to get hurt. So, gee, that could be used against me, eh?
True.
Because my feelings do get hurt every now and then. I'm so full of cement, that's why I'm getting a fat ass. Anyway, there's a pile of chrome moly tubes, and it turns out that the World Class Racing team is building a new GTC car for Robert Walk, who, I suppose his contract didn't get renewed by the BMW team? Is that the way?
Quite possibly that's what happened.
Now, we know who's going to be the new driver, don't we, Gary?
No, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely, but I can't say.
Oh, okay.
Because that might upset somebody, and I think his dad might want to make the announcement himself. Follow the hints. If you think you know who it is, write it in the comments. There's another hamper from Gary. From Gary's plate. You can have a chip. Anyway, so they're building a new chassis, and I just let my mind wander and go places where it shouldn't go. The original run of these GDC cars, are we allowed to talk about that, Gary?
We can talk about anything. But I'm not mistaken that the first run of GDC cars, the chassis, were built in one place.
Yeah, Carl Pinno's workshop.
This is going to be one that's not built in that workshop.
Yes.
Now,
It's also going to be one that is the second car that's made out of chrome moly as opposed to mild steel.
Right.
But it's a good thing because this car is going to be, it's going to have a focus body, and they're going to run because the rules now for next year will allow for a spec V8 engine. It just happens to be a Chevrolet engine. And which brings us to Fernando Alonso's running Chevrolet, because Toyota said no ways in hell are you going to drive a Honda engine. And Honda said, Fernando, who? I don't think Honda would sell him a bloody lawnmower after he trashed them. Anyway, so it's going to be the first. Gary, the mind wanders. Chevrolet engine.
Yes.
Because it's reliable, cheap, and they can run 30,000 kilometers between rebuilds. 30,000 kilometers. So basically, it can run forever. The drivers will wear out before the engine does.
He's begging us. He wants to know who you're talking about. The driver.
The driver for the BMW car. There's a clue. Lee Phillips once ran a two-car team of the same make that this driver drove this year. Work that one out. So then...
Okay, Lee, so you type the answer.
So you work the answer, and Gary will give you a chip as a prize. So now what they're going to do is build this car. It's going to run in the Tier 2 division.
Correct.
And because Stuart Thompson builds proper good stuff and awesome cars, they're building jigs for it as well. It makes sense to me, and this is nothing, I'm just letting my mind wander, that if anybody else wants a car, you go to Stuart and he builds it. Because they are certified by the FIA and MSA and all sorts of people in terms of building chassis. They know chrome moly, they know square and straight, and they've got immense pride in the quality of work that they do, and they would build you a car. Stuart, you owe me for every new chassis that comes in. I mean, guys are going to walk in the door and said, hey, Exit Waved Yellow said we must come to you to build us a car. But anyway, so they're going to build that. First race is in the beginning of March. Stuart is not going to Dakar. If he was going to South America for Dakar, it would have been impossible.
He wants to know if the teams you were talking about were Minis or Nissans.
Ha ha! You got to think harder. If it was easy, then I'd just blurt it out. Follow the clues.
Mr. Sol Renzi's okay.
The clues are there. So that's what Stuart is doing.
Now, Charlotte Renzi's just posted a comment on here. I've got the Scoop Oaks. Now, I wonder what Scoop he's talking about.
He's got a scoop on his Lamborghini. Did he not talk to you before the show?
No.
Did he talk to production?
No.
In fact, our research department should have spoken to him. I'm going to talk to them.
Okay.
Because if there's a scoop and we haven't got the scoop, we don't like that. Talking about scoops, the Kyalami International GT race has been moved to the 29th of November because there's some World Cup of, I don't know, what's it? Soccer, golf, cricket, whatever. I don't know, some ball game. That there's a world championship and it would have clashed, and so they were very kind. Stefan Rattel organisation was very kind to move it to November. Gary, I've got some other stuff.
Yeah,
what have you got?
I see Calvin van der Linde's online, and seeing we're talking with Calvin, we need to know your plans for next year. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Jordan Pepper has just been confirmed as a full factory driver for Bentley Motorsport, for M Sport. He'll be competing in all the Blancpain Endurance Series and the GT Intercontinentals starting in Bathurst.
So that's kind of a cool race, and Bathurst is streamed live.
Yes.
You may ask what our plans are. Some say, some would ask. Correct. I still want to know what that scoop is that Aranges has got.
I know what he's going to do. He's going to play with us and give it to us so we've got something for next week or something.
No, that's all right. He can do that. Yeah. So what are we going to do? We've committed. We have some new partners, and there's some mild clues going on. We've been looking for passionate motoring people to work with us and to help fund it. This lot doesn't come
cheap.
Well, we put some effort into it. There's data. There's stuff. So we're really happy that Autobahn are the second or first official partner We have a meeting with another partner tomorrow, and then the other partner, please look at your email because you did get the mail very early this morning. And anyway, so we've now committed, so we're all in for every Wednesday going forward until infinity and beyond. So the 12th is next week, the 19th, 26th was a Boxing Day show. It's a special because there is motorsport on Boxing Day. You've got to check it out. You've got to work out where this motorsport is. There's more prizes. We're able to give chips away now. That Mug and Bean Broadacres are so kind to give us some toasted salmis and chips. Then the next, so the 26th of December, Boxing Day is. Are you allowed to call that Durst Day?
No. Are we going to do
that? It's a box.
Are we going to do that in 4 ways?
Do you know what's
what's
worse than cardboard box?
No. Don't. There are children watching.
I'm tell you. Okay. Then we do the 2nd of January, which is a Wednesday, and then all of a sudden, the Dakar is on us. And the first show we'll do on Dakar will probably be the Saturday, because I think it's the 5th, Gary, because that is our birthday as well.
Correct.
Waved Yellow will be 1 year old on the first day of Dakar. So we're going to celebrate that. We might force a cool drink down our neck.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely. Other notes that we've got.
Okay, just before you go on from there, quickly, just this weekend there are still 2 South Africans competing internationally. We have Nick Adcock, who's overseas running in the Asia Le Mans series. This is round 2, the 4 hours of Fuji.
Very good, Gary.
And then we have...
And hold on. He's 5th in the Pro-Am Championship at the moment.
No. Oh, no, he's 1st.
5th overall.
Who? The next guy we're talking about?
No, Nick. Nick's 5th in the Pro-Am. This is what research gave me. And the next oak, Saul Hack, your mate, is 1st in the Pro-Am Championship.
Yeah, and
Gary, in the beginning, we had this discussion already about focusing. I see you slipping. Is this your old timers kicking in that you forget your stuff?
No, the information given to you've written it upside down, but it's good. It's fine.
I'm going to research. I'm going to have it out with research.
Do you know who Saul Hack is?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can tell me your version.
He's very good friends with a certain gentleman owner.
Toby.
With Toby Fenter, yeah.
Isn't he Toby's nephew?
I'm not sure. But it wouldn't surprise me if those 2 gentlemen put something together for next year for the 9 hour.
I see there's another GT3 car that is under build.
Yes.
I say it's under build because, Terence, thanks for the invite, but it was magnificent. We enjoyed the undercover. We appreciate that. I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
We'll talk about it next week.
Now, just to answer Richard Daly's question, any news about new cars, etc., for extreme supercars? One thing is for sure, Gianni has got himself a Lamborghini.
Yes.
Okay.
There is other news.
Yes.
That it has been decided by some that 4-wheel drive Lamborghinis are not so cool and 2-wheel drive Galados are better. So you take out, there's a Mozzie here. And even the mosquitoes go to Fart Club in 4-ways, and they come out at night and they're bad. So if you see me swatting something, it's either Gary or a mosquito. So the news is on the Lamborghinis, they're going to ditch, I think it's about 100 and odd kilograms of drive shaft and stuff, and ditch it, and that allows a different setup on the car. It allows the front tires more chance to turn in and do what front tires do, because if we go back to our mathematics, and this is about triangles and circles. If you imagine that you've got a force, and just imagine a circle here. You've got to use your imagination. If you haven't got an imagination, then you need to take up maths and science. So you can either have a force going all the way this way or all the way that way.
Yeah.
You cannot, it is impossible to have these 2 forces together. And the maximum forces. So the maths is that you end up with a resultant force like this, which means you can have so much cornering force or so much braking force. You can never, ever have maximum of each. So the more cornering force you put in, this one goes up here, the less braking force you've got.
Okay.
It's like a dial. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Okay, that's another just stuff.
Okay, so Calvin's just confirmed he will be at Kyalami in November next year.
Yes, we know that. And
Now,
also,
Calvin, that's a long time to go without a drive, my friend.
but he's we'll talk about that.
Calvin, I'm going to be calling you, Jordan, and Sheldon, and a couple other guys. We get together with you, another show probably. I'll phone you guys, find out when you're available. Thanks.
You forgot to mention that Saul Hack is in Bahrain in the BWT Water Porsche
correct.
Cup Challenge.
Challenge, yeah, this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you forgot about the Porsche Cup Challenge, BWT Water.
Okay, thank you.
That's pink. Do you know that pink cars in Porsche have won the most races of all Porsches in Super Cup this last year? Because they're pink.
I did not know that.
Gary, my mind got updated last night. Pick another fact. I'll come up with it.
Okay, cool.
The other news is that Kurt Busch took his, going to NASCAR, because we always like NASCAR, Kurt Busch took his Monster Money, or Coca-Cola's Monster Money, and he's now gone, he's driving the number 1 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. There's not a whole lot of love between Kurt Busch and Stuart Haas and Kevin Harvick.
Cool.
So, Gary, that brings us, we know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We know what racing is going to do. We know what some South Africans are going to do. Do you know what you got to do now?
I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say, cheers, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next week, Wednesday. See you all on the wild side.
It's been an absolutely awesome year. There are 1 or 2 events we're still going to go to. Our production and legal are furiously setting things up. There's a whole lot of technical issues that we're trying to upgrade and get better and better at. And Gary, if you open that thing now, I'm going to be the murrin. So Gary's got a Coke in his hand. Thank you very much for watching and joining us, for your interaction and for your passion. Keep it up and have a great week. Check you next week. Cheers.